One human entered the trial arena. No species ever asked for another test. Part 1. The Crucible of Contempt. The Galactic Council's trial arena has existed for 12,000 cycles, a proving ground where species demonstrate their worthiness to join the greater community. The trials are brutal by design: physical endurance, mental acuity, diplomatic reasoning, and combat prowess. Most species send their finest specimens, carefully selected and extensively trained. A 60% pass rate is considered exceptional. The matriarchs oversee the trials with cold efficiency. They've witnessed thousands of species attempt the gauntlet: the four-armed warriors, the hive-minded, the silicon-based who process information at quantum speeds. Each species brings their evolutionary advantages, their cultural strengths, their desperate hope for acceptance. When humanity's application arrives, it's met with the usual bureaucratic processing. The Council assigns Earth a standard trial slot, expecting little. Humanity is young, their technology primitive by galactic standards, their planet a backwater in an unremarkable arm of the galaxy. The dossier notes their fractious nature: hundreds of nations, countless languages, a species that has barely unified enough to reach their own moon. The human who arrives is named, a former Marine-turned-paramedic from Earth's Asian coalition. He's not particularly tall or strong by human standards. From conflicts the Council doesn't bother researching. He carries no visible weapons, wears simple utility clothing, and displays none of the ceremonial grandeur other species bring to their trials. The administrator, third matriarch, barely glances at him during intake processing. She's conducted this orientation 40,000 times. She explains the trials with mechanical precision. Candidates will face 5 challenges over 3 planetary rotations. Failure means rejection. Death is possible, even likely in some scenarios. 63 species have gone extinct attempting these trials. Listens with an intensity that finds mildly curious. He asks pointed questions about medical protocols, environmental hazards, and whether he can request additional trials if he completes the standard 5. The last question makes her mandibles click in what might be amusement. No species has ever voluntarily requested additional trials. The first trial begins at dawn in the arena's central coliseum, a structure that can reshape itself to any environment. Today it's a volcanic hellscape, designed to test raw endurance. Candidates must cross 15 kilometers of superheated terrain while carrying a 50-kilogram data core to a collection point. Most species bring cooling suits, anti-gravity assists, or biological adaptations that make the trial merely difficult rather than impossible. Strips down to minimal clothing, wraps his hands and feet in heat-resistant fabric from his pack, and begins running. The monitoring stations record his core temperature rising to dangerous levels. His flesh blisters. He doesn't slow down. What catches the attention of the assembled observers isn't his pain tolerance. Many species have impressive endurance. It's his strategic thinking. He uses volcanic vents to create updrafts, reducing the weight he carries. He finds ancient lava tubes that offer temporary relief from the heat. He improvises a cooling system using his own sweat and the data core's metal casing. When he reaches the collection point 40 minutes ahead of schedule, he's severely burned but conscious and already asking about the next trial. The second trial tests cognitive ability, a complex diplomatic simulation where candidates must negotiate peace between 3 hostile alien factions, each with incompatible cultural values and biological needs. It's a test that typically takes species hours to even understand the parameters. Completes it in 27 minutes. His solution is unconventional to the point of being scandalous. Instead of mediating between the factions, he proposes a framework where each faction's needs become the responsibility of another faction, creating interdependence rather than mere tolerance. The note: it's technically a passing solution, though it reveals a concerning tendency toward manipulation rather than harmony. By the evening of day 2, word has spread through the observation decks. The human isn't just passing, he's excelling in ways that break statistical models. The trial administrators begin watching more carefully. Something about this candidate feels different, dangerous even, though they can't articulate why. The third trial is combat. Facing the arena's automated defenders, machines designed to adapt to any fighting style. Enters the combat sphere armed only with equipment he's fashioned from salvaged trial materials: a crude spear, a makeshift shield, fabric wrappings that might offer minimal protection. The first defender is a quadrupedal hunter-killer, all hydraulic limbs and plasma cutters. It should end the trial in seconds. Instead, dances around its attacks with a fluid grace that suggests deep training, targeting joints and sensors with precision strikes. When it adapts to his patterns, he changes tactics entirely, becomes defensive, baiting it into overextension, then explosive brutality that dismantles the machine in a flurry of impacts. The second defender is deployed immediately, protocol-breaking but deemed necessary by the AI overseeing the trial. Then a third. Defeats them all, though by the end he's bleeding from a dozen wounds, moving with a pronounced limp, and the medical monitors scream warnings about internal injuries. When herself descends to the arena floor to halt the trial, concern for the candidate's survival finally overriding protocol, looks up at her with eyes that seem far older than his file suggests. "I'm not finished," he says simply. "I can keep going." She orders him to medical facilities despite his protests. As the medtechs work on his injuries, they discover something that sends ripples through the administrative channels. His bone structure shows signs of multiple complete breaks that healed improperly, then were rebroken and set correctly. His organs have scar tissue, suggesting he's survived injuries that should have been fatal. His neural pathways show patterns consistent with sustained high-stress environments. This human hasn't been prepared for the trials. He's been forged by something far worse. That night accesses Earth's public data networks, something she's never bothered to do for any candidate species. What she finds disturbs her in ways she didn't think possible. Humanity's history is a cascade of violence, extinction events, plagues, and wars that dwarf anything in the galactic record. They've faced down megafauna predators, ice ages, and their own relentless tribalism. They've survived catastrophes that would have ended most species. And they've done it without ever knowing they weren't alone in the universe. The trials resume on day 3. Passes the fourth trial, environmental adaptation in a zero-gravity toxic atmosphere, with such efficiency that the administrators wonder if he somehow cheated. The fifth trial is a test of moral reasoning, a philosophical gauntlet that has no right answer but measures the depth of ethical consideration. Responses are recorded for later analysis. His framework is built on concepts the translators struggle to render properly: necessary evil, lesser harm; the needs of the many, acceptable losses. They're the philosophies of a species that has never had the luxury of absolute morality. When the trials conclude, has achieved a perfect score, something that has happened exactly twice in 12,000 cycles, both times by species that went on to dominate entire galactic sectors before collapsing into tyranny. Offers him the traditional congratulations and begins processing his species' admission to the Council. Stops her with a question that will haunt the galaxy for generations. "Can I do it again?" he asks. "The trials, different scenarios, I want to see what else you have." It's not pride or arrogance in his voice. It's hunger. The hunger of a species that has spent 200,000 years fighting for every scrap of survival, now suddenly presented with new challenges to overcome. His response is careful, diplomatic. "The trials are complete. Your species has earned their place in the Council." Nods, but his eyes scan the arena's structures, its vast mechanisms, as if memorizing them. "Right, of course, thank you." As he's escorted to the diplomatic quarters to await humanity's official delegation, the matriarchs convene an emergency session. They review the trial footage again and again, particularly the moments between challenges when thought he wasn't being recorded. The way he examined every security system, how he mapped escape routes, his constant tactical assessment of his surroundings. One junior matriarch voices what they're all thinking. He wasn't just completing trials, he was studying us. The decision is unanimous and unprecedented. They will not offer humanity additional trials. They will not invite humans to test the advanced scenarios reserved for council military candidates. They will not, under any circumstances, suggest that there are greater challenges available. Because if one human can do what could humanity do if they decided the trials weren't tests to pass, but puzzles to solve? What would happen if this species, this fractious, violent, adaptable species, decided that the Galactic Council itself was just another trial arena? The report filed by is marked with the highest classification level. Its conclusion is simple: humanity has passed. Never let them take the test again. Part 2. The delegation that became a demonstration. 6 months after trial, the human delegation arrives aboard the Spirit of Unity, a hodgepodge vessel that betrays humanity's technological infancy. The ship is a converted colony transport, its hull covered in mismatched panels from a dozen different manufacturers. It limps into the Council's diplomatic station with an escort of security cruisers, a courtesy extended to all new member species, though in this case, the escort feels more like containment. The delegation consists of 43 humans representing Earth's major political blocs. Ambassador leads the group, a former astrophysicist-turned-diplomat with silver hair and the kind of patient smile that makes veteran council negotiators uncomfortable. The humans arrive with gifts, cultural artifacts, genetic samples of Earth's biodiversity, and art that ranges from ancient cave paintings to holographic installations. The matriarchs receive them with formal hospitality in the Grand Pavilion, a space designed to accommodate species of all sizes and atmospheric requirements. The ceremony proceeds according to 12,000 cycle-old traditions: the offering of gifts, the recitation of mutual understanding, the signing of the Galactic Compact. What disturbs attending as the official trial administrator is how carefully the humans observe everything, not with the wide-eyed wonder of most new species, but with the analytical precision of military scouts. They note sight lines, traffic patterns, security protocols. When they think no one is watching, they sketch, they photograph, they whisper observations to each other in their dozens of languages. And is among them, not as a dignitary but as a cultural liaison. He stands in the back of the delegation, wearing a simple suit that can't quite hide the predatory way he moves. His eyes meet across the pavilion, and he nods with what might be respect or might be acknowledgement of a shared secret. The integration period begins. The Council assigns humanity their starter package: basic FTL technology schematics, entry-level medical databases, agricultural optimization programs, and most importantly, access to the Galactic Trade Network. It's the same package given to all new members, carefully curated to accelerate development without overwhelming primitive infrastructure. The human response is unprecedented. Within 2 weeks, human engineers have reverse-engineered the FTL drives and identified 17 ways to make them more efficient. Their physicists publish papers pointing out theoretical flaws in the Council's understanding of quantum mechanics. Their medical researchers cross-reference the alien databases with human biology and discover treatment protocols that hadn't occurred to Council in 8,000 cycles. The humans don't do this maliciously. They do it enthusiastically, like children given new toys, eager to share their improvements. But to the Council's established powers, species that have held technological advantages for, it feels like invasion. The first diplomatic incident occurs during a routine trade negotiation. The Dominion, a warrior species that has held military superiority for 3,000 cycles, offers humanity a standard technology exchange: basic weapons designs in return for genetic samples. It's a predatory deal, the kind offered to weak newcomers who don't know better. The human negotiator, a smiling woman named Dr. Sarah, politely declines. Then she produces a showing that humanity has already developed plasma weapons equivalent to military-grade equipment, using only the physics databases from the starter package. She offers to trade the refinements they've made to the design, improvements in heat dissipation and energy efficiency. The delegation walks out. Within days, intelligence reports reach the Council of Human Corporations offering similar improvements to 24 other species' technologies. Not theft. Humanity is scrupulously careful about intellectual property rights. Improvements, optimizations, clever solutions to problems that stagnant civilizations had stopped trying to solve. Watches this unfold with growing dread. She arranges a private meeting with Ambassador under the guise of cultural exchange. They meet in a garden habitat, a neutral space filled with bioluminescent flora from across the galaxy. Arrives alone, as requested, those security systems detect at least 3 concealed human surveillance devices the ambassador has somehow smuggled in. She pretends not to notice. "Your species is making enemies," says without preamble. "The established powers see your rapid advancement as a threat." Smile doesn't waver. "We're simply trying to contribute to the galactic community. You're disrupting markets that have been stable for. You're challenging technological monopolies that entire civilizations depend on. You're," searches for the right word in standard galactic, "aggressively innovating." "Is that forbidden?" asks mildly. "No, but—" The mandibles click in frustration. "Most species take centuries to reach the level you've achieved in months. They grow slowly, integrate carefully. You're destabilizing systems you don't yet understand." Smile fades and for a moment sees the steel beneath the diplomatic veneer. "Matriarch, with all respect, humanity doesn't have centuries. We just learned we're not alone in the universe. We're a single species on a single planet in a galaxy full of civilizations that have had a 12,000-year head start. Every day we don't advance is a day we remain vulnerable." "Vulnerable to what?" asks. "The Council maintains galactic peace. The wars you might fear ended ago." "For you, perhaps," gestures at the alien garden around them. "Every species here earned their place through trials, combat trials. That implies the galaxy has teeth, even if you filed them down. And the species that failed those trials, the 63 that went extinct, what happened to them?" Has no answer that wouldn't confirm the human suspicions. The conversation ends cordially, but files another classified report. Its core finding: humanity operates from a position of existential paranoia. They see cooperation not as security but as tactical advantage. They share innovations not from generosity but to create dependencies. Every gift is a strategy. Every friendship is an alliance in a war they think is inevitable. The second diplomatic incident is more serious. A human survey team, exploring potential colony worlds in their granted territory, discovers something that shouldn't exist: a mining operation, illegally extracting rare minerals from a planet within humanity's assigned sector. A silicon-based species with powerful council connections have been quietly exploiting new member territories for centuries, confident that primitives won't notice or challenge them. They severely underestimate humanity. The human survey ship doesn't fire on the installation. Instead, it broadcasts a polite hail, informs them they're in violation of council territory agreements, and requests they vacate within 24 hours. They ignore this. What can one primitive ship do? 24 hours later, the human survey ship is joined by 6 more vessels, cobbled together craft that look like they were built in someone's garage. Which, according to intelligence reports, they literally were. Humanity's private space industry has been building ships at a frantic pace, and several corporations have donated their vessels to Earth's fledgling defense force. The humans establish a blockade. When they try to leave with their stolen minerals, the human ships use their improved plasma weapons to slag the freighter's engines, precision strikes that disable without killing. Then human marines board the installation, evacuate the workers with surprising gentleness, and systematically dismantle the entire operation. The final insult. The humans file a formal complaint with the Council, complete with documentation, sensor logs, and a mathematical analysis of how much they owe in reparations for illegal resource extraction. The delegation demands sanctions against humanity. The Council convenes an emergency tribunal. Ambassador presents humanity's case with devastating precision, the kind of legal argumentation that suggests humanity has spent their entire 6 months of membership studying galactic law for exactly this purpose. The tribunal rules in humanity's favor. They are fined. Humanity receives formal apologies. But the damage is done. The established powers of the Council realize that humanity doesn't follow the unwritten rules, the comfortable arrangements and ignored violations that have greased the wheels of galactic politics for. Worse, they fight with a competence that suggests military experience far beyond their technological level. More classified reports circulate among the Council's inner circles. Analysis of human entertainment media reveals a disturbing pattern. Humanity has been imagining alien contact scenarios for centuries. First contact stories, invasion narratives, galactic empires. Humans have been mentally preparing for this moment for longer than some Council species have had written language. The military powers begin wargaming scenarios. What if humanity turns hostile? The consensus is troubling. Humanity's ships are inferior, but their tactics are unpredictable, and their tolerance for casualties is higher than any modern Council species. Computer simulations suggest that subduing Earth would be possible, but extraordinarily costly in lives and resources. The third incident is the one that changes everything. An unknown hostile force, raiders from outside Council space, attacks a colony world. A peaceful hive-minded species suffer massive casualties before Council defense forces can respond. The raiders retreat into deep space, their superior FTL drives allowing them to escape pursuit. The Council convenes to discuss response strategies. Before they can act, humanity makes an offer. Now holding the title of Special Operations Advisor, presents to the military subcommittee. He studied the raider attack patterns, analyzed their technology, and prepared a tactical assessment that shocks the assembled generals and admirals. "We can find them," he says simply. "We can track them back to their base, and we can eliminate the threat." The Council military commanders are skeptical. How can a species barely 6 months into galactic society accomplish what their centuries-old intelligence networks cannot? His answer is chilling in its honesty, because we think like predators. You've had peace for 12,000 cycles. We've never known peace. We've spent our entire history hunting each other. These raiders, they're just another threat. And humans are very, very good at dealing with threats. The Council refuses the offer. Too risky, too aggressive, not the galactic community's way. So humanity acts unilaterally. A human task force, 7 ships, 300 personnel, leaves Council space without authorization. They use techniques learned from human naval warfare, tactics refined in conflicts the Council has never studied. They track the raiders through hyperspace using methods that shouldn't theoretically work but somehow do. They find the raider base hidden in a rogue planetoid. And then they destroy it. Not carefully, not surgically. They hit the base with such overwhelming force that there are no survivors, no prisoners, no chance for intelligence gathering. When questioned later, the human commander simply says, "They attacked civilians. We ensured they won't do it again." The raid footage, leaked to galactic media, shows human marines moving through the raider base with horrifying efficiency. This isn't the clumsy combat of primitives. It's the refined brutality of a species that has spent perfecting the art of killing each other. The galactic community's reaction splits along predictable lines. They, having lost thousands in the raid, publicly thank humanity. Other victims of raider attacks quietly express gratitude. But the Council's military powers see something different, a demonstration. Humanity wasn't just protecting the innocent. They were showing the galaxy what they're capable of. They were saying, in the clearest possible terms, we may be new here, but we're dangerous. Remember that. Watch's ambassadors address to the Council in the aftermath. The human speaks of justice, of protecting the vulnerable, of humanity's commitment to galactic peace. All the right words, delivered with perfect sincerity. But remembers eyes in the trial arena. She remembers his question, "Can I do it again?" That night, she adds a final addendum to her classified reports, a conclusion she's been avoiding for 6 months. Humanity didn't pass the trials to join the Galactic Council. They passed the trials to learn everything they could about us. Every test took was reconnaissance. Every improvement their engineers made was studying our technological limits. Every diplomatic negotiation was mapping our political fault lines. We thought we were testing them, they were testing us. And now they know we're not as strong as we pretend to be. Part 3. The trial no one requested. The Emergency Council session convenes 3 days after the Raider base destruction. The Grand Assembly Chamber, built to hold 10,000 delegates from across the galaxy, feels claustrophobic despite its vast size. Every major power has sent their highest representatives. The tension is molecular. Attends not as an administrator but as an expert witness. She's brought every classified file on humanity, including the ones she wasn't supposed to create. As the accusations and debates swirl around the chamber, some species praising humanity's action, others demanding sanctions, she realizes something that makes her mandibles lock in fear. The humans are winning. Not through military might or technological superiority, but through something more fundamental. They've divided the Council. Species that have coexisted peacefully are now arguing, choosing sides, forming blocks. And in the center of it all, Ambassador sits with that patient smile, occasionally interjecting with perfectly reasonable statements that somehow make the arguments worse. The Dominion's war chieftain stands to speak, his 4 arms gesturing aggressively. The humans have violated our most sacred principle, containment of violence. They launched a military operation without Council approval. They used lethal force when diplomacy was possible. They saved thousands of lives, interrupts Representative Ra of the Collective, her voice carrying the harmonics of her entire hive's consensus. While the Council debated, humans acted. They eliminated a threat that has plagued the outer sectors for decades. A threat that should have been handled through proper channels, counters Ambassador of the Concordat, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into hostile angles. The humans' vigilante actions set a dangerous precedent. What happens when they decide another species is a threat? Seated behind in the human delegation's box, catches eye. He's not smiling, but there's something in his expression that suggests he's exactly where he wants to be. The debate continues for hours, but the real decision is being made in the chamber's private corridors and secured meeting rooms. The power brokers of the Council, species that have shaped galactic policy gather to discuss the human problem. The matriarchs host the most critical meeting in their sovereign section of the station. 20 species representatives attend, the real powers, the ones who make decisions before they reach the assembly floor. Is her expertise on humanity now invaluable? The eldest matriarch, her carapace bearing the scars of 10,000 cycles, opens the discussion with characteristic bluntness. We have all read the reports. We all understand the implications. The question before us is simple. What do we do about humanity? The war chieftain pounds a fist on the crystalline table. Subjugate them before they become a true threat. We have the military advantage now. In 10 cycles, 20, they'll have matched our technology and their tactical creativity will make them unstoppable. Genocide, someone whispers. The word hangs in the recycled air like poison. Not genocide, corrects coldly. Preemptive containment, we've done it before. The species that showed dangerous tendencies before achieving parity with the Council, they were managed. Mandibles click involuntarily. She'd heard rumors of such actions, but never confirmed. And if we attack and fail, humans have already proven themselves capable of asymmetric warfare. We'd create exactly the enemy we're trying to prevent. Then we negotiate restrictions, suggests Ambassador Ara of the Union, her telepathic voice resonating in all their minds simultaneously. Technology limitations, population controls, monitored systems. We did this with the when they first achieved quantum processing. It can work. They agreed because they had no choice, counters, apparently unbothered by the revelation of his species' past subjugation, and because we allowed them certain advantages in other areas. What do we offer humans that they can't already develop themselves? The meeting spirals through a dozen scenarios, each more unpalatable than the last. Containment requires military force they're unsure they can project effectively. Negotiation requires leverage they don't have. Economic isolation would hurt the Council as much as humanity. Human innovations are already becoming indispensable to several industries. Finally speaks, there may be another option. Let me talk to them, not as a Council representative, as the administrator who tested them. They trust me, or at least does. Perhaps I can learn what they truly want. The room falls silent, considering. Ancient eyes study, and if what they want is dominion, if their goal is to replace us as the Council's guiding powers, then we'll know, says quietly, and we can respond accordingly. Permission is granted. Requests a private meeting with, not through diplomatic channels but through a personal message to his private console. He responds within minutes. Observation Deck 7. 1 hour. Come alone. The deck is a public space, a transparent dome overlooking the station's docking bays and the beyond. It's empty when arrives, has somehow arranged that. He's standing at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching human shuttles ferry supplies from the spirit of unity. You wanted to know what we're really doing here, he says without turning. Not a question. Yes, moves to stand beside him. Up close, she can see new scars on his hands, fresh injuries that medical technology should have erased. He's been training, she realizes, constantly preparing. The Council fears you. Good, now he looks at her, and his eyes are tired. They should, not because we want to hurt anyone, but because fear might keep them honest. Honest about what? About what the galaxy really is. Gestures at the, you showed me the trials, matriarch, combat, endurance, survival. These aren't tests for a peaceful galaxy. They're tests for a dangerous one. So where are the dangers? Where are the threats that justify maintaining a military force capable of containing new species? Silence confirms what he's guessed. The Council isn't peaceful, continues. It's tired. You've fought your wars, established your hierarchies, drawn your borders. You've created stability through overwhelming force and then convinced yourselves that stability means peace. But it's just stagnation dressed up as enlightenment. And humanity offers something different. Humanity offers chaos, says bluntly. We're fractious, violent, innovative, unpredictable. We'll disrupt your markets, challenge your assumptions, and probably start conflicts you thought were impossible. But we'll also push you to grow again, to improve, to remember what it felt like when survival wasn't guaranteed. You're saying the galaxy needs humanity to be dangerous. I'm saying the galaxy is already dangerous, you've just forgotten. He taps the transparent viewport. Those raiders we eliminated, they've been operating for decades. The council knew about them and did nothing because they only hit acceptable losses in outer territories. That's not peace, matriarch. That's just deciding whose pain matters. Wants to argue, but the truth in his words is undeniable. The raiders have been a known problem, one the council chose not to solve because the cost of action exceeded the political will. So what do you want, she asks. What is humanity's endgame? Is quiet for a long moment watching the stars. We want to make sure we survive. Everything else, the innovations, the military demonstrations, the diplomatic maneuvering, it all serves that goal. We're not trying to conquer the galaxy. We're trying to ensure that no one can threaten Earth without paying a price so high that conquest becomes unthinkable. Mutually assured destruction, murmurs, recognizing the concept from human history files. You want to make humanity too dangerous to attack and too useful to eliminate. Finally turns to face her fully. Here's what's going to happen, matriarch. The council is meeting right now to decide our fate. They're discussing containment, subjugation, maybe even destruction. And they're going to conclude that all those options are too risky or too costly. You seem very certain. Because we've been preparing for this conversation since the moment we passed your trials. Smile is thin, almost sad. Did you think the raider base attack was spontaneous? We've been tracking those raiders for months, waiting for the right moment to demonstrate our capabilities. Ambassador speeches that divide the council, carefully crafted to expose fault lines we've been mapping since we arrived. The technological improvements we've been sharing. Each one creates dependencies, relationships, reasons for different species to want humanity around. Feels her exoskeleton go cold. You've been manipulating the entire council. We've been surviving, corrects. We're a single species in a galaxy of thousands. We have no advantages except our willingness to do what others won't and our ability to outthink opponents who grown comfortable. So yes, we manipulated. We demonstrated. We made ourselves simultaneously invaluable and dangerous. And now the council will decide that humanity is manageable. They'll implement some restrictions, create oversight committees, maybe limit our territory expansion. We'll accept these terms publicly while quietly continuing to innovate, to adapt, to grow. In 50 cycles, we'll be powerful enough that the restrictions don't matter. In 100, we'll be an integral part of the council's power structure. He pauses. Or you'll try to destroy us, and we'll make you regret it so badly that no species will ever try again. It should sound like a threat, but delivers it like a weather report, simple statement of probable outcomes. Why are you telling me this? Asks. Because you're the only one who actually understood what I was doing in the trials. Meets her eyes. You saw that I wasn't just passing tests. I was learning everything I could about your systems, your thinking, your limits. And you warned the council, but they didn't really listen. They thought admitting us was the end of the trial. It was just the beginning. So what am I supposed to do with this information? Whatever you think is right. His expression softened slightly. You're not my enemy, matriarch. None of you are, not really. But we can't afford to trust that you'll always be friends. So we prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. It's the human way. He leaves her alone on the observation deck, watching the stars and contemplating the impossible situation humanity has created. A species so young they barely qualify for council membership has, in 6 months, fundamentally altered the galactic balance of power simply by refusing to play by unwritten rules they were never taught. The emergency council session resumes 3 days later, reports her conversation with to the power brokers who respond with predictable alarm. But by then, several key votes have already shifted. They have formally allied with humanity. The collective, impressed by human innovation, has signed technology exchange agreements. 3 Outer Rim species, emboldened by humanity's stand against the raiders, have begun demanding council action on neglected security issues. When the vote comes, it's exactly as predicted. The Council imposes restrictions on human territory expansion, requires advance notification of military operations, and establishes an oversight committee to monitor human technological development. Humanity accepts these terms with grace and appreciation. But everyone in that chamber knows the truth. Humanity has won. Not through conquest, but through strategy. Not through superior technology, but through superior tactics. They've made themselves too useful to eliminate and too dangerous to ignore. They've divided the Council and created dependencies. They've exposed the gap between the Council's peaceful rhetoric and its practical realpolitik. Most importantly, they've demonstrated something that terrifies the established powers. Humanity is just getting started. Ambassador's closing speech to the Assembly is a masterpiece of diplomatic theater. She thanks the Council for their wisdom, pledges humanity's commitment to galactic peace, and promises cooperation with all oversight measures. She speaks of mutual benefit and shared futures, of learning from the Council's ancient wisdom while offering humanity's fresh perspectives. She never mentions that human shipyards are already building their next generation of vessels. She doesn't note that human universities are developing quantum communication systems that could bypass Council monitoring. She certainly doesn't acknowledge that 3 human corporations have just signed exclusive trade agreements with species that have felt marginalized by the current power structure. She doesn't have to. Everyone already knows. That evening, returns to her quarters and begins writing her final report. Not for the Council, but for her own private records, a document that will be sealed for 1,000 cycles, a message to future about what happened when humanity entered the galactic community. She titles it, "The Trial That Never Ended." The report's conclusion is simple.